Hi there, welcome to Wyckoff Technical Analysis session for PEAQ. So after yesterday's big event across the market, PEAQ is still showing some relatively, I would say, positive sign because the price reclimbed to the key level of zero point 0 line. So this orange key level over here, if it hasn't climbed back to that level, the trend that it has started 4 weeks ago would have been broken, and that's become another story entirely. So let's take a look at both the weekly and daily chart and see what kind of insights we can get. And if you're new to my sessions, these are the takeaways you usually get from my sessions. What Wyckoff stage is, PEAQ is at, and then the key price levels we have to observe, plus any breakout timing from the price actions in the charts. So this is the weekly chart where previously we talked about there's still 25% chance for the price to come back down for tests before it heads up for the sign of strength that should sit somewhere around the green key level of 17 cents. As of now, it's still staying around the lower end. It's understandable because it's still weekend and there's no response yet as to the new trade war, I would say, between China and the States. So here we're still kind of expecting it, and the risk is, or the possibility is getting higher to the downside, whereas to the upside, the timing may be delayed depending on how quickly the fight, let's put it that way, the fight between those two countries are going to be resolved. If they take longer time, the risk to the downside will increase, and also the level that it dips may go even lower. So previously the 0.06, the 6 cents level, it's measured from these lows back in June and August, July, August this year. However, back then we didn't really have these kind of events. So if this uncertainty or the fight continues or escalate, then this 0.06 may not even hold. So be very cautious about what's going to come for PEAQ. As a new coin, it's probably going to suffer more than the ones that's been existing for a while. Let me adjust the chart a little so you can see the price clearer. So that's the big picture. The percentages adjusted, the expectation of the distribution cycle is pushed further down the timeline, unless that tariff thing is getting resolved very quickly, because otherwise this prolonged fight isn't going to help the price. People will just put their money into safer assets and wait for this to be over. So I'm quickly adjusting these key levels because we are approaching to the tip of them, and it's not easy for you to see the prices. I just want to quickly check one thing before we move on to the daily chart, and that's the Bollinger Band Keltner squeeze. So the orange line, especially the bottom of the band, is extending outwards, and that's going to trigger a technical squeeze, likely next week, if not by the close of this week. We still have 31 hours before this week's candles close. Technically speaking, we're kind of in a squeeze situation, meaning there will be bigger price swings coming. PEAQ is rather new, so we don't have historical reference, but if you look at my other sessions for older coins, you see whenever a squeeze happens, immediately following there will be bigger waves. So it doesn't mean it just swing to the like either up or down. It comes one after the other, so just like sea waves. Let's go to the daily. Again, just wanted to quickly turn it on to check. There's no technical squeeze at the moment, but the price, I mean the bands, are close enough that I would consider them a squeeze is going on, but it's a pretty big swing as of this moment. So the daily chart is showing us an example. So there was a squeeze at this point, and that's where we have these swings happening, irrespective of what kind of news is triggering those squeeze. Previously, we asked ourselves whether we're going through a backup or last point of support periods, while we had something like a spring back in August, a couple of testing points that's lower than the selling climax itself back in February this year. As of now, the price is still far from the sign of strength established back in mid-May, that 0.17 level. So given what happened yesterday, the expectation of a new sign of strength happening will be getting somewhere further in the future. Because what happened here, what we have here, I would say it probably had finished a distribution cycle. So it's like a mini distribution cycle over here that we had. So rather than using the red tags, I'm trying to use a different color to illustrate what's happening over here. So what we had back here would potentially be a PSY, preliminary supply, assuming that's a mini distribution cycle in the daily chart. And then eventually we had the buying climax, and then automatic reaction. I'm going to expand this so it's easier for you to see. So this red candle over here is what I'm referring to as potential automatic reaction. And obviously there was a second test over there. This one come back over here, and then some sign of weakness. And then, interestingly, we have an upthrust. And now it's back down to the sign of weakness level. Assuming that's a mini distribution cycle within this bigger accumulation cycle, if that's the case. So it's just a matter of time where we're going to see potentially a selling climax, if that's the case, because what happened yesterday plus what's going on now, the price is seeking direction, hovering around this 9 cents orange key level. So this is pretty important, because if the price tries to climb back to this channel, the bottom edge of the channel box now becomes the resistance for the price movements. So it's not easy to break above it unless maybe Donald Trump comes out to say something positive, or Xi Jinping is coming out to say something positive. Otherwise, I just don't see it happening that it can shoot all the way back into the box. And one more thing over here is that the climb was pretty steep at the beginning, and then the momentum died down somewhere like when we got into October. So that's already a weakening sign even before the announcement of the new tariff or potential tariff. Not that it has been realized, but still that weakening momentum was kind of obvious when we look at it as of this moment. It's not that it's abnormal, because I've explained many times, if I switch it to a line chart, it's easier to observe. The expected behavior of price actions within an upward channel or a downward channel or a horizontal channel is that they will tend to get close to one side of the channel and then bounce off to the other side and bounce back and just keep doing this kind of activities. What happened yesterday only pushed it outside of the box. It was supposed to be like continuing that kind of action where I shared a time point near the end of this month, a breakout event would happen. So either it breaks above the yellow key level of around 14 cents, which the price failed to deliver during the buying climax and upthrust. Both tested that line, but then got pushed back to below the line, that 14 cents line. And now this event happened. The good thing is the price quickly resumed back to above the 0.09 level, but it's not confirmed yet because current day candle can still come back down to the 6 cents to 9 cents range, meaning for the near term it may trade between those two levels at a range of just 3 cents. Not too bad because it's still 30% difference from the bottom to, well, actually 50% if it's from the bottom to the top. From the top to the bottom is 30. So that's the thing right now. It's still highly uncertain, just that PEAQ seems to be staying within these two, and we hope that it still stay the same. Not that it's like end of the world if it really comes down to realize the test level, just that it's going to extend the subsequent events further to later in the year. So this may be an extended period of accumulation. If you look at the bigger picture or like across the board, even for Bitcoin, during the 2002 to 2023, there was almost a 500 days kind of accumulation period. I don't hope that whatever is happening right now is going to trigger similar prolonged period of accumulation, because if that happens, we're just halfway in. So there's still another 8 to 9 months if it really turns out to be a prolonged accumulation. So finger crossed that's not the case. Hopefully the big guys are going to sort out whatever they're arguing about.